mother would queue up outside the Israelitische Kultusgemeinde. That's the German, I beg your pardon, is the Jewish Welfare Board, night after night. In fact,
trying to get an exit visa?
No, we didn't require an exit visa, but what we required is permission not to leave, but to land. We had to have permission from the British government to be one of the 10,000 children who were granted entry, and my mother was anxious that I should be on the list. And I remember that morning when my mother came, cuddled me, kissed me. She said, "Otto, you're going to England." Well, I knew England. Britain was an island. I'd learned this. England? I'd never been away before. Well, when are we going? No, Otto, not we, but you.
How did you feel about that, being separated from your family?
Well, at first I felt very excited. I was going to see the sea. I'd never seen the sea before. Austria is completely landlocked. And when she told me that it was only going to be me, I felt, of course, very sad. I'd never known to be away from home. And
as a young boy, did you know why you had to leave?
I wasn't quite sure. Unfortunately, there were some children who thought their mothers don't want them anymore. They were sending them away. I already understood that they were nasty people. And to go back to the Crystal Night, if I may, it was really because of the Crystal Night that there was an all-night sitting at Westminster, where it was one of the first all-night sittings, where it was agreed to allow 10,000 unaccompanied children into Britain with a mass visa.
So it was a quota then?
It was a quota, and that's why my mother was so anxious to be able to put me in the quota, because it was organized in Vienna by the Jewish authorities.
Tell me about when you were accompanied to the train station.
It was my sister and my mother. I remember this so vividly that I am absolutely surprised that this happened so many years ago. At the station there was, of course, a long wait. We expected that. And then finally came the announcement that all children were to go to the platform, for the train that was to take us had now arrived at the platform. But they were to be unaccompanied. And what is more, the announcer said, I remember this distinctly, that there were to be no signs of emotion. In other words, no crying.
No tears.
No tears. This very day I still regret that I didn't have a last cuddle with my mother. But it was, as far as I was concerned, only a temporary parting.
Did you have any friends come with you?
My cousin. My cousin who lives in Cheam in Surrey. Having shown my passport almost constantly, I was required once again to show my passport by this border control man. And he took this passport off of me, and I thought he was going to destroy it. But happily in the last moment, he gave it back to me. I've got this here, and there's a crease in the middle of this passport. It says Deutsches Reich, because Austria was part of Germany now. And this crease reminds me of how lucky I am to be here, because he took my passport and he was just about to destroy it. And in the last moment, I suppose even evil people got consciences. Perhaps he might have had a son himself. He gave it back to me. But whenever I look at this, this is a copy of my original passport, which I got at home. And whenever I look at this and see this crease, I give thanks that I was able to leave. I was full of different emotions. I was excited, I was sad, I was already beginning to feel homesick, but most of all, I was looking forward to seeing the sea. It was always an ambition of mine, don't forget. I was not yet 11 years of age. Oh, I can tell you the exact date, because here is, in fact, my first document, my first English document, issued in Harwich, and I arrived in Harwich on the 6th of July, 1939. My birthday is on the 12th of July. I was 1 week, just short of 1 week, of my 11th birthday. And I often look at this again. This is part of my document, my first English document. This is how I looked. And every male, Jewish male, whether he's a boy or man, had to have between his first name and his second name Israel. And
why?
Because they wanted to, that was to degrade us. Every woman, every female had to have Sarah. And I had to sign myself Otto Israel Deutsch. It's not my name is Otto Deutsch.
To identify your faith?
To identify that I'm a Jew. And there was another identification that I'm a Jew, because on the first page of my passport there was a big J. Here we are. That means Jude, Jew. And there you see again Otto Israel Deutsch. They underlined my proper name, but it had to be Israel, and every female had to be Sarah. It was to humiliate us.
Did you realistically think that you were going to be reunited with your family?
Well, that is important, because I told you that we were taken to the platform, and as far as I know, nobody was allowed on the platform. But my sister, her name was Adele, Daly we called her, she managed to get to the platform. I suppose a pretty young woman had her ways. And
How old was she?
7 years older than I, that's why she couldn't come. She was already 17, and it was from 6 to 16.
So did you know what happened to her?
Yes, I certainly know what happened to her. Like my mother and father, she was killed in Malitostenek. And that's why I've got this photo, because I was in June at the site where the three of them were killed. My father came back, by the way. In 1939, there were no gas chambers as yet. There were horrible concentration camps. He came back because the only consolation I've got is that my mother and sister and father went hand in hand to their deaths. Let me go back to my sister. She managed to get to the platform. And I managed to get a seat by the window. And you know, I remember this so vividly when I talk about it that it seems odd that it's so many years ago. She ran after the train as the train began to move, and she shouted, "Otto, sei schön brav, wir sehen uns bald wieder."
What does that mean?
Be a good boy, we'll see each other again shortly. And she must have known that we'll never see each other again. She surely must have known that. And the journey was a long one. And I don't remember much about the journey. But I remember arriving at the Hook of Holland. And I saw the sea for the very first time. We landed in Harwich. And
Tell me about that.
I heard the English language for the first time. I couldn't speak a word of English, of course. And it was fascinating. People were dressed differently to us. We looked amazed. A different country. I'd never been away. we had crossed the sea. I can't remember if I was seasick or not. I'd like to think not. But I do remember the boat that we came on, the old Elenia packet boat, Amsterdam. And there we were in Harwich. And people were fussing about us, reporters were there. People were giving us things, but I had no idea of what the future lay ahead.
What was going to be your future?
Well, we were now on an English train, crossing the Suffolk and Essex countryside, and arrived at Liverpool Street.